Welcome to Soul Searchers. My name's Brian.
And I'm Ricky. And today we're here at the Rippa Villa plantation.
This plantation is located just outside the city limits of Spring Hill here in Murray County.
On right off of I-31, right?
Highway 31, yes.
Yeah. Today we're going to take a walk inside this beautiful location and introduce you to the docent here at Rippa Villa and talk, for starters at least, about all of the history that has taken place right here. So come and join us.
All right, we're here with Chuck, who is the docent for Rippa Villa Plantation. Docent, Greek terms, is actually, it means teacher. So welcome, Chuck. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Welcome to Rippa Villa.
Thank you.
We're glad to be here. And of course, my very first question that I have to ask is, when was Rippa Villa built?
Construction started in 1852, and the family moved in 1855. And they were here until 1895.
And what family is that?
The Chairs family.
The Chairs family, okay.
Well, actually stayed in the family until 1920. The builders, Susan and Nathaniel Chairs, were married 52 years. She died here in 1893. He sold the house in 1895 and moved to Waco, Texas. He sold the house to his son, Will. Will sells the house out of the family in 1920.
Now, I'm pretty sure that I heard that there was, there's like a twin property, or some structures are similar to...
Ferguson Hall is very close to this house. Ferguson Hall was the home of Martin Chairs, which was Nat Chairs, the man who built this house, his big brother. A lot of copying going on. Ferguson Hall is older, but this one, it was definitely an influence on this one.
Oh, okay.
And we had a spiral staircase over here until 1895. If you want to see what our spiral staircase looked like, go see the one at Ferguson Hall.
So this was a spiral staircase. And I'm sorry, when did you say that was redone?
1895.
Oh, okay. So this is still
Torn out, and yeah, still
a very classic old staircase.
And easier to move furniture on.
I'm sure. Well, so I would love this entryway is completely beautiful, and I would love it if you could possibly just kind of take us around on a little tour.
Sure.
Okay, so now we are in a room right off of the front entrance, and is there a name for this room?
This is Miss Susan Chair's music room. Mrs. Chairs was a very talented musician. She played the piano, the harpsichord, the melodeon, the organ, and the guitar.
Oh, wow.
And had a beautiful singing voice, spoke fluent French, and was a pretty good seamstress as well. I've got several of her pieces that she made. The sofa, Empire sofa, beside us, and this music box, it's a post-Civil War music box, are family pieces.
They are family
pieces. And this secretary in the corner, along with the chair, the carbide lamp or gas lamp. There's some cloisonne ivory pieces, and the books are all family pieces as well.
Oh, that's great. Now, I have to ask, as far as the decor, the wallpaper and paint colors.
Spot on 1855, when they were renovating the house, they brought people in that did the right. They used patterns from, of course, this stuff is still available. But everything is period 1855, 1865.
Okay, so not original.
No.
Obviously, it looks like it's been kept up very nice. So not original, but very close
Very
to
close
original,
to the original, yes.
What was here. Let's go to another room down here on the first floor. I noticed, like right off the bat, that this is very open here.
Yes. Now this room that we're fixing to step into is actually the old carriage entrance.
Oh, okay.
And then the following room at the end of the hall is Nathaniel's study. The table, about an 1820 Empire style piece. We have it there because we don't have room for it in the dining room. It's such an expensive antique that when we do buffets and brunches, we can't let people use it.
Oh, okay.
They ruin it.
So that actually is not the dining room.
No.
But
and it's not a family piece either.
Okay. But it is an antique.
Yes. Yeah, about 1820.
Wow. Okay. Now, for those of you that are watching, we kind of did a circle around on the first floor around the main entrance, and so now we are on the other side of the main entrance, and this room would have been used for
parlor. It's a formal parlor.
And that's pretty much how it's been used for all the owners?
Yes, yes.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about the front pieces of furniture?
The furnishings in here are Empire. They are antebellum pieces. These are not the original pieces that were in the room, but I do have the original set upstairs in the museum room. But because we have to move furniture frequently, it's hard on the furniture.
And the reason you do tours here on a
Right,
regular basis,
right.
correct?
Right, but then we might have the Civil War Roundtable from Chicago in here with 80 people, and they want lunch, and we'll charter a caterer or a subcontracted caterer in, so we've got to roll in here and set up tables for 80, feed them, break them down, clean up, and then bring the furniture back in place.
Now, is there a place that we can send our viewers to if they want to get more information?
Yes, just call Rippa Villa. They can go to us.
And that's good for setting up a tour as well?
Yeah, we're on Facebook. We also have a web page, and we are also listed in the Spring Hill directory. We're open every day except Christmas and New Year's, and so there's usually somebody here.
Okay, well, great. Well, now we're going to go ahead and move on into what was referred to as the dining room and talk a little bit about the Civil War history that exists here at Rippa Villa.
All right, Chuck, my favorite part of this whole thing is the Civil War history.
Mine too.
Great. So I heard that General Hood was here at some point in time.
He was.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yep. A couple of myths that have flown out of this house for the last 152 years. One, that John Bell Hood was under the influence of laudanum or some painkiller, and there's absolutely no truth to that. There's no proof, so no script pad or journal entry, so he was just having a bad morning. The second rumor is that the 6 Confederate generals killed at Franklin, Generals Gist, Straw, Granbury, Claiborne, Adams, and Carter, were here for a large breakfast meeting that morning, a council of war, and that they all sat around a very large mahogany table. Well, that's a large mahogany table right there. None of the generals killed at Franklin were here that morning. They were on the field with their command. My favorite, Pat Claiborne, was at least a mile from here. And what we do know that morning is that Mrs. Chairs was running around here in some sort of a bedlam-like state. Her husband's in a prisoner of war camp in Columbus, Ohio. Her son's an active participant in the battle with Bedford Forest. There are dead men in the yard. There are dead men laying where they fell. The barn's full of wounded and prisoners. That whole side of the house is being used as a surgery. Every room in this house is being filled in the room with wounded soldiers from both sides. And about 6:30 in the morning, there's a knock at the door, and it is John Bell Hood, Governor Isham Harris of Tennessee, and Bedford Forest. And the question proposed by General Forrest is there a place in your house that I can establish a headquarters in the field? And I think it was followed by the way, we're quite peckish. Is there anything to eat, Mom? And they come. Now, this room was completely empty. The large mahogany table disappeared sometime in either 1861 or 62. It depends on what family legend you listen to, but it ain't here and it wasn't here then. What we do know is that Mrs. Chairs was bringing chairs, no pun intended, from all over the house. These two are horsehair chairs. They are from a pre-Civil War antebellum dining room suit. They were here. This chair is part of the original parlor suite that was in that room. It was recovered about 20 years ago, so we know it was in the next room. And we have a plethora of chairs that were here at the time. But these 3 chairs were in one of these 2 rooms at the time. We know that Mrs. Chairs had this table over here in the corner brought up out of the kitchen. It's an 1818 piece, slave made by slave craftsmen, set up in the corner, and that breakfast was ham, biscuits, sourdough, and coffee that morning. And that's where it was set up. We also know that the generals had coffee from these 2 pots. These were returned to us by Libby, a great-great-granddaughter of the Chairs this summer. She lived in Wheeling, West by God, Virginia, and she decided that they needed to come home. And she said these were the 2 pots my grandmother served the generals coffee from, and these are the 2 that she hid in the garden when the Yankees were approaching in 1862. Now, not a lot's known about the conference. Some people say this is where the orders to find Schofield and attack him at Franklin were given. Some people say it was the Harrison House. What we do know is that Mrs. Chairs was thanked for her hospitality by General Hood and General Forrest, and then General Hood, according to Mrs. Chairs, asked her if she could please excuse herself because the language in this room was not fit for a lady of her pedigree. And it reflects in the Old Testament there was much gnashing and shouting shouting and gnashing of teeth going on here. Of course, the Hood Forrest argument starts in here. It spills out on the front porch where we're talking out in front of the house. Hood leaning against the column because he's missing one leg and literally has a bum arm. And that is where John Bill Hood told him that if he were a whole man, he would beat him within an inch of his life.
Wow.
We do know that Hood was here that morning with Forrest and with Isham Harris, the governor of Tennessee, maybe a few staff officers, but nobody else that we can prove. I'd like to put all 7 of them in here, but we can't.
So the mood in this room or in this whole area would have been pretty dim. You know, the war, you know, the battle had just taken place. How many hours?
Well, it's 6:30 in the morning. The Union Army was gone by 2 in the morning. Hood has just learned that, quoting him, that the best laid scheme of his entire career basically was gone.
Wow.
And to make matters worse, John Schofield, the Union commander, was his old buddy from West Point. They were very close friends before and after the war. And so he'd been hoodwinked by one of his buddies. So it was not a happy time at Camp Rippa Villa, to say the least.
Would there have been soldiers here on the property at that time? Or?
Yes, the house is being used from the 29th of November until December the 18th as a Confederate field hospital. The barn is used as a stockade. It uses a shelter for the wounded. And literally every room in this house is packed in the room with soldiers on the floors, on the beds.
Wow.
The floors in this I've been told by family members and folks in the neighborhood, were quite blood-stained. And one of the reasons that the floors were covered in the 1920s was to cover the stains up.
Wow, wow. Yeah, that's a terrible vision to think about, especially in this beautiful home,
Yep.
to have so much pain and suffering going on.
Yep, and this was the next to the last occupation. The federal troops under James Wilson will occupy this house from December the 18th till about New Year's Eve, 1864. When the Confederates retreat out of here, Wilson's men right on their heels. But Wilson was very much a gentleman. He moved Mrs. Cherison and the children into Nathaniel's study and left them alone. And then when he did pull out, he actually left 2 armed guards on the premises to protect it from looters. And it was one of these armed guards that tipped Nathaniel off a couple of months after the war ended that he was about to be arrested by federal marshals. And Nathaniel was able to make his escape out of Murray County, and he ended up going to Washington, D.C. He was a close Masonic friend of President Andrew Johnson. They were Masonic brothers, knew each other through the Grand Lodge of Tennessee. And Nat met with Mr. Johnson in the White House, and he got a full presidential pardon. He also got a letter from the president stating that upon presentation of this letter, all properties confiscated from Major Nathaniel Francis Cherish IV was to be returned immediately, signed Andrew Johnson, President of the United States. So,
Wow.
Okay, so we decided to go ahead and move on back outside, even though it's raining today, so we're going to keep this brief, but this is obviously a very unique building, so why don't you tell us what this is?
structure dates back to the mid to late 1840s. It probably was a slave dependency, but in the latter part of the Civil War, it was confiscated or requisitioned by the U.S. Army and became the Rutherford Creek Freedmen's Bureau School. It was set up to educate the children of freed slaves. Actually set up to educate freed slaves. Literacy was a big
And so about how many students would they
We're not
have
real
in it?
sure. We know that it was used as a school well into the 20th century, and it stood over on Greens Mill Road about 5 miles from here. And in 1997, the Murray Alliance brought it over here and reassembled it. And we're fixing to undergo some pretty extensive renovation. The bottom logs have been badly roped, so we found replacements. We had some replacement barn, a lot of replacement logs in the barn that we're swapping out to a contractor. He's going to fix some places in the barn and some places here, and then he gets the rest. The building, though, is the only log Freedmen's Bureau building left in the United States. Now, Fisk University, Freedmen's Bureau School in Nashville, started in the Union Army Barracks. There are actually 2 Union Army barracks still on campus, Fisk University, but it was a Freedmen's Bureau college. This is an elementary school.
Oh, okay. And if I'm not mistaken, you said that you've got a couple stories of some things that
We've
have
done
happened
some
here.
investigations out here with Patrick Fleming and Chris Burns 2 or 3 years ago, and then a couple other groups have done investigations here. They see shadow people here quite often. You see a man sitting in the corner. They'll have an EVP set up in here. One of the more interesting questions is that one of the paranormal investigators asked one night, just threw it out there, do you know that we now have an African American president? And you could actually hear somebody say, really? And somebody else saying from the point of amazing. But you will hear little chattering here from time to time, and things will get moved in here. A lady stacked up some slates in here and went somewhere with me. We came back a couple hours later. The building was locked and they'd been moved to another bench.
Wow.
But yeah, it's quite interesting.
And we're going to go back inside, and you're going to tell us a few more paranormal type events that
Right,
we've had here, right?
Right.
So let's go in before it gets too cold and wet.
This is Sally Chair's room. She's the youngest of the 4 children. The furniture in here is East Lake. The chifforobe or armoire, the bed, and the dresser were made in New Orleans in 1856 and shipped upriver to Memphis by steamboat and from Memphis to Spring Hill by train. The quilts on the bed, along with the dress on the bed, were made by Mrs. Chairs, and as was the lace straw work over here on the dresser. This room gives a lot of people the willies. A lot of people say that they don't like being in this room. This room is also the only room in the house that still has a balcony entrance, and that would be right over there.
So we are upstairs, and this is referred to as
Jenny's room.
Jenny's room. And this is a very special bed, correct?
This half-teaster bed was in oak lawn. This is the bed that John Bell Hood spent the night in, the night of November the 29th, 1864, the night the Union Army slipped away. This is where he was sleeping when the young Confederate straggler woke him up and said, "Sir, the Yankees are retreating down the Nashville Highway."
Wow, and I've definitely never seen a bed that looks like that. Look at all the detail. And I've never seen a canopy that looks like that.
They're kind of rare.
What is it called?
It's called half-teaster. The one in the master bedroom is a full teaster. This is a half-teaster. And you could hang mosquito netting from it.
Okay. And so what else can you tell us about this particular room? I guess for starters, who is Jenny?
Jenny is the eldest child. Jenny, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting people in the county. She was 19 years old when the war started. She was engaged at 19 as well to a fellow from Smyrna by the name of Tom Tucker. They were to marry after the war, but he was killed during the fighting around Vicksburg, so she did not marry Tom. Kind of a steel magnolia. She helped Susan Chairs keep this place afloat during the war. The bed over here is actually an 1841 wedding gift to Susan and Nathaniel by Mr. and Mrs. McKissick, Susan's parents. And you'll notice the cradle, that dates to 1764. It's not a family piece, but it's a Pennsylvania Dutch piece, and it was found in a junk store in Philly in 1936 and was given to a little girl as a Christmas present for Christmas of 1936, and she was there on a tour about 8 years ago and asked me if I'd like to have it. And I said,
Sure.
"Absolutely. We take it."
That's great. It's unbelievable how many items you have here and furnishings that are that classic original pieces.
And they're not all on display.
Now, so getting back to some paranormal stories, has there been any paranormal stories with?
This was actually the first room we did an investigation with. I was with Mike Sears, who was with Volunteer State Paranormal Research. I've been with him on Tennessee Crossroads. We were sitting in here one evening in late fall, about this time of the year, one Saturday. Just gotten dark, and we're all kind of clowning around, so we sat down in here and decided to get real serious. Fellow was sitting right here beside the bed. He was a medically retired Marine. He'd been wounded in Afghanistan and was with the group. He was on the mend, and just kind of out of nowhere he says, "Is there anyone here from Hardee's Brigade?" Hardee's Brigade was a Confederate regiment here in '64. And through the EVPs, you can hear a very clear voice saying, "I am." We just kind of, screeched the train to a halt here. And I said, "What outfit are you with?" And the guy said, "First Texas." And I asked him his name, and he said, "Jimmy Pierce." Jimmy Pierce. We asked him a couple other questions, which I'm not going to repeat on film about blonde-headed women. But he was very succinct about it. Now, we've been told several times that there is a spirit of a Union soldier here by the name of Hiram, who was with the 124th Indiana from Terre Haute, or Terrible Haute, Indiana, who was wounded, shot through the lungs during the fighting here, between here and Denning Lane, somewhere, but Denning Lane's about a mile from here.
Right.
During the line of retreat, three of his buddies carried him through the Confederate picket lines in front of the house, knocked on the door and handed him over to Confederate doctors, and he died in this room 3 days later as a prisoner of war. I've had several empaths and several medians tell me that he is still very active, and some days he likes me and some days he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me when I'm wearing my Confederate uniform. I do living history here, but on days that I'm not, I'm okay. I can't convince Hiram that I was born 90 years after the Battle of Spring Hill, so it's all good.
So, what is this picture of?
This lady was, her name was Daisy Gibson. She was a cousin to Susan Chairs. Daisy's mother and father owned a place called Woodlawn. Woodlawn is a hop and a skip down the road here. It's where Haynes Haven is now.
In Columbia.
It's in Spring Hill.
It's before you get to Columbia.
Big white elephant just down here on the right.
Oh, okay.
Woodlawn burned in 1936. There was a dispute between the painters and Mr. Haynes, who owned it. It was called Haynes Haven by that time. And he rebuilt that house in '38, naming it Haynes Haven. We have a number of pieces in this house, including Daisy, that can never go home again.
If there's anybody there, can you talk to us? Can you speak into this little orange light?
Jimmy Pierce, or Hiram, are you here tonight? And talk to y'all in a while. Annabelle, are you in here with me, honey?
The Soul Searchers group is here. We would just like to know of your presence if you exist. We don't mean any harm by anyone to anyone. But we would like to know if there are any souls still residing in this home.
What about Jenny? Jenny, are you here tonight, dear? Feel like little girls talking?
Please come over. Don't be afraid of us.
You know me for a long, long time. Let me get that light.
It's right here.
Now it stops. Are you still here?
I don't feel anything right here.
Put your phone away. Or, that's not your phone, that's the thing. Here, let me have it. The audio recorder.
I've had it with it all night though.
Oh, yeah.
And it definitely is in the camera and light, so.
It's weird. is
I mean-
right here.
If you're here, can you touch
Can
Brian?
I try for just 1 sec? I just want to move it a little further away.
If someone is here with us, we want to know who you are and make sure that it's not just this EMF recorder going off. Can you touch Brian? He's the one holding it.
Or if you could move to the other side of the room.
Yeah, Brian, why don't you go stand on the other side?
Actually, I meant whoever's setting it off.
Well, no, but I know. Stand there, Brian. Still going on. Are there lots of people here with us right now? How many people? Do knock on the wall or the table here if there are more than one entity here with us right now. I'm going to set the audio recorder down on the table. Make some kind of noise into the audio recorder letting us know if you're here. It's really cold behind me. Come over here. Like right behind me, it's like really cold. And I remember when we first came in here, I was like really hot.
See that light going across the floor?
It's from
Okay,
this.
good.
Wonder if this could be maybe a child or something, because it's,
Annabelle, is that you, Pumpkin? Sally, is that you?
If there's a little child here with us, we can kind of play a little game. Andy has this temperature gauge that shines a little light on the floor. And you can try to catch it. I have a couple little children. I like little kids. What's your name? Can you make the EMF reader stop? Make it stop for a second. Stop providing energy for it for a second.
They're messing with you. Can you come over here?
I've never seen it go out. It's like full. Okay, I'm really cold. I'm getting like goosebumps now. Is there somebody that wants to say something to me? Something just touched my hair right here. I'm getting goosebumps. If anybody can get a camera on my arms, you can probably see it just like you did with. See my hair standing up?
Yeah.
Is that you trying to let me know that you're here right now?
you got perfume on? I smell like a flowery.
This
Oh,
was
and my
changed.
feet are freezing cold.
Yeah. You smell lavender here a lot.
Yeah.
You smell roses here.
My feet are frozen. Like I'm feeling cool air.
Do you smell the perfume like a,
I don't smell the perfume.
I said like a lavender, yeah, like a
I
flowery.
keep feeling something going like this to my hair, and something just like scratched my back.
That's strong right here. You don't smell that?
How bad
No.
does it scratch your back?
Huh?
How bad does it scratch your back?
Just lightly, like almost like joking, like not mean.
Well, we had somebody that was scratched that drew blood upstairs in the master bedroom.
Oh, really? I don't
Tour
think.
group in there.
Okay, yeah, I smell it right here. Ricky, no offense, but could it be your shampoo or your conditioner?
I don't smell it, so I don't know.
That's where I'm smelling it, is right next to you. It's, I mean, if
I
you,
don't smell anything in my hair.
well, what kind, do you use like any
It's wafting
products?
through here now.
It's not like, I don't use like perfumey products, I just use regular products.
It almost smells like a funeral home smell.
Now you're not picking up on those flowers behind you, are you?
There's
Are
no
they
sense
real?
of them.
Are they real flowers?
Dried and real.
No,
Oh,
are they?
they're real.
That's not the smell though.
Are you still here? I don't feel quite as cold as I did. Do you want to make me cold again? It's okay, I don't mind. I think it's kind of fun. Oh, wow. Something right behind my back. That was weird. Something, it's like the feeling of somebody brushing just slightly behind you. Are you behind me? Who are you? Is there anything that you want to let us know? Oh, did you hear that? It's okay, it's just another camera.
Cameras are a lot different now than when you folks were around.
Is there more than one of you here with us tonight? Oh, we're not ready for you to leave yet. I'm here.
Do you want us to go home? If you want us to go,
Stand close to you so if you feel something again, you'll feel it too. Well, we have to go now.
Well,
Okay, so we've wrapped up our ghost investigation here at Rippa Villa, and we'd like to thank Chuck so much for having us here
no,
this
you're
evening.
most welcome. Please come back and visit us.
We would love to come back. And we hope that you come back and join us. But before we go, we just want to say with the ghost investigation, we always have to double check our footage and our audio recordings to see what we may have on those that we weren't able to hear or see while we were here. But we had a few experiences. Do either of you guys want to talk a little bit about what happened?
I'll just say upstairs in the room where all the artifacts are at, we kind of felt some colder temperatures, just kind of a somber feeling in that room. But other than that, that's all we really caught on our side up there.
Right. There was the one room upstairs too that I didn't feel comfortable going into, and I did end up going into it later and didn't have any particular experiences in there, but for whatever reason originally I did not want to go in there. And but most of the other experiences that we had, even when the air temperature seemed to change, at least down here on the first floor, seemed kind of positive. I'm even kind of thinking maybe a child possibly. We had the EMF reader go off. I think all of us felt
cooler temperatures.
I'm
I've got
feeling it now.
to the point
I
of
have too. I've been
getting
feeling it, yeah.
goosebumps, and I know I was really hot when I first came in here. When we first started doing the interview, right here in these same very rooms, it was pretty warm actually, and so we had the EMF reader going off quite a bit, and I felt a couple of times I felt like something was brushing up against my hair and even across my back. So that's what we've experienced thus far, and if we happen to find anything more on the footage, then we will bring that to your attention when you're viewing. So thanks for joining us, and up next we're in the month of October, and we will be heading towards Spring Hill and at the Spring Hill Cemetery. So come back and view that.